The Korean Peninsula has been divided since the end of World War II. Two countries governed by drastically different systems that have long viewed each other as enemies. How did that happen? Let's turn back time to 1945, when Japan, which had occupied Korea for 35 years, surrendered, marking the end of World War II. That's when Korea got split along the 38th parallel. The Soviets occupied the north, and the Americans occupied the south. With the start of the Cold War, two separate states were created: the Communist Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Capitalist Republic of Korea. On June 25, 1950, North Korea invaded the South in an attempt to unify the peninsula under communism. A United Nations military effort, made up mainly of US forces, came to the aid of the South Koreans and repelled the North Koreans back across the border. In October 1950, the UN and South Korean forces went into the north to finish the war, but were met by a surprise counteroffensive by Chinese troops who had come to the aid of their communist neighbor. The fighting continued until July 27, 1953, when an armistice was signed to end hostilities. By then, more than 2 million people had been killed, and the peninsula was devastated. But the war was never declared officially over. In the following decades, both Koreas developed in their own ways. At first, the North flourished as part of the communist bloc, but it all came crashing down when communism collapsed across Eastern Europe in 1989. South Korea, in the meantime, had transformed itself from a mainly agricultural economy to one of big business and became a flourishing democracy. Meanwhile, both sides have maintained a heavy military presence along their border, known as the Demilitarized Zone, with the threat of the resumption of hostilities ever present. Over the years, there were signs of progress between the two Koreas, such as organized reunions of families that had been separated during the war, and a special industrial region where South Korean companies employed North Korean laborers to work in their factories. But North Korea's pursuit of nuclear weapons and missile development brought that progress to an abrupt halt. Since 2006, the country has conducted 6 nuclear tests and fired dozens of missiles, despite international condemnation and increasingly severe economic sanctions.
Thank you.
But in 2018, North and South Korean relations surprisingly began to thaw. North Korea sent a delegation to the Winter Olympics in the South, and South Korea later sent a delegation to Pyongyang to meet face-to-face with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. That paved the way for the first meeting between the North and South Korean leaders in over a decade, and for an even bigger bombshell meeting between Kim and US President Trump. These landmark encounters could be important steps to diffusing tensions and eventually bringing peace on the Korean Peninsula after nearly 7 decades of division.